Hello there.
Welcome back to Fouch Facts, everyone. In today's video, I'll be revisiting the Seven With Devon series and giving you the 7 greatest Star Wars Prequel Trilogy characters. This list will be comprised of characters from The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. But before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, comment below who your top prequel characters are, subscribe to the channel, and click that notifications bell so you'll be alerted every time I drop a new video. Let's begin. Before we get into the actual list, let's go over the honorable mentions. Jango Fett, Count Dooku, Mace Windu, and Darth Maul. Coming in at number 7, we have everyone's favorite astromech droid, R2-D2. We're first introduced to R2, chronologically speaking of course, in The Phantom Menace when he saves our band of heroes from being blasted into oblivion by the Trade Federation blockade. Literally, the first thing he does is save the Queen's royal starship, which allows the group to get to Tatooine, paving the way for the discovery of Anakin Skywalker. R2 proves that he's literally Captain Clutch as he helps the main characters at key times during the prequels. Whether it's by helping Anakin pilot a starfighter during the battle for Naboo, saving Padme in the droid factory, reassembling C-3PO in the Geonosian arena, killing buzz droids on Anakin's ship, or providing convenient distractions to help escape from General Grievous, R2-D2 always saves the day in the nick of time. But perhaps R2's best quality is his loyalty. He is the ultimate best friend, the greatest sidekick of all time, and he'll never leave your side no matter how dangerous the situation is. R2 easily rolls into the 7th spot on this list. At number 6, we have the best senator to have ever served in the Republic, Padme Amidala. Padme does more than enough to earn this spot on the list. She continues the iconic Star Wars tradition of strong female characters as she demonstrates her bravery and courage all throughout the prequels. As Queen of Naboo, Padme was on the front lines literally fighting for her planet's freedom when it mattered most during the events of Episode 1. Her firm stance on peace, justice, and the Naboo way would carry into Episode 2 as she fought for the Republic to stay out of impending war despite multiple assassination attempts on her life. Padme always puts others first no matter what, a quality that she puts on display when Obi-Wan is captured by the Separatists on Geonosis and she attempts a rescue mission with Anakin Skywalker. She never cowers in the face of danger, despite coming face to face with deadly monsters and armies of battle droids. But Padme's best quality is the ability to see the good in anything and anyone, despite what circumstances may be surrounding her. This is most notably put on display right before her death as she pleads with ObiWan Kenobi that there is still good in her husband Anakin even though he has turned to the dark side and become Darth Vader. Padme Amidala never loses hope. Her character is a nice mirror of the freedom fighter her daughter will one day become in the original trilogy. Again, Padme is more than deserving of the number 6 spot on this list. Coming in at number 5, we have Master Yoda. You can't have a top character list in Star Wars regardless of the era and not have Yoda in it. That would be downright blasphemous. Ever since fans first saw Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, we yearn to see this once great warrior in his prime. And while he might not be in his prime in the prequels, he can still handle himself pretty well. We get to see our little green friend wield his lightsaber for the first time when he duels his former Padawan Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones. I remember as a 7-year-old seeing Yoda use his lightsaber for the first time. It was absolutely mesmerizing. And then of course the Grand Master of the Jedi Order would meet his match in Episode 3 in a climactic duel of the fates facing off against Darth Sidious. And in a shocking ending, Yoda loses. His lightsaber fight scenes were some of the highlights of the prequels. The way he would dance and jump around while managing to keep his opponent on their toes is insanely awesome. And his force powers were equally as incredible. The dude literally can stop force lightning with one hand. But as always, Yoda hands out sage words of wisdom in the prequels as well. One of my favorite scenes of Yoda is watching him train the younglings in Attack of the Clones. Listening to him tell the kids to reach out and feel the Force around him really reflected similar teachings that he would later give Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back. Whether it be telling us that fear is a path to the dark side, or telling Anakin to let go of what he fears to lose, he never fails to give top quality advice. He is both an insightful teacher and a cunning warrior, and is definitely worthy of a spot in the top 7 prequel characters. Coming in at number 4, we have Senator / Supreme Chancellor / Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, aka the Senate. We can't talk about the greatest characters in the prequels and not talk about Papa Palpatine. One of the most iconic villains in not just Star Wars but the history of cinema, the Chancellor is one of the most cunning and strategic antagonists of all time. His character reminds me a lot of Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones, with how devious their political schemes are and their mutual desire to be in positions of ultimate power. What makes Palpatine such a good character is his patience and foresight, allowing him to take complete control over the galaxy without the Jedi ever suspecting him. Ever since Phantom Menace, Palpatine carefully manipulated events behind the scenes to secure and maintain his position as Supreme Chancellor. And while the Jedi were suspicious that he was not to be trusted, they had no idea of his true identity as the Dark Lord of the Sith. And when it came time to reveal his true colors, fans everywhere were shocked at the mere power Palpatine possessed. He easily disposes of some of the most skilled Jedi Masters in the galaxy, Agent Kolar, Saesee Tiin, and even Kit Fisto. He holds his own against Mace Windu in a fight, but famous Star Wars YouTuber Star Wars Theory has a pretty convincing argument that Palpatine purposely lost to Mace. Regardless, the fight was still electric nonetheless. But one of Palpatine's greatest moments comes when he faces off against Master Yoda in Revenge of the Sith. After displaying incredible saber and force powers, Palpatine eventually comes out on top, forcing Yoda into shame and exile. However, Palpatine's greatest moment in the prequels comes during the opera scene in Revenge of the Sith. He spins a swaying tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise and the ability to cheat death when he talks to Anakin in hopes of luring the boy to the dark side. It perfectly showcases Palpatine's twisted evil genius and gives the audience an idea of how sadistic this man truly is. Palpatine comes in at number 4 on this list, but you can easily make the case for him to be higher, and I, like many others, would be okay with it and would probably tell you to do it. Coming in at number 3, we have Anakin Skywalker. Now, what kind of top prequel character list would this be without the main character of this trilogy and all of Star Wars? Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, and he is definitely the most important character in this trilogy and the entire saga. Anakin's story is one of tragedy. It's a unique twist on a rags to riches adventure that ends in utter heartbreak. When we're first introduced to him in Phantom Menace, we see how compassionate this kid really is. All he wants to do is help people. But unfortunately, that compassion to help would eventually turn into an obsession to protect, which would be a driving force in his turn to the dark side. Having grown up a slave, Anakin lived a huge part of his life under the control of others. So when he finally gets the chance to be freed and become a Jedi, he feels like for the first time in his life he has the power to control his own destiny. However, Anakin would soon realize that his life would be under the control of a new entity in the form of the Jedi Order. He never could become adjusted to the strict rules and regulations of being a Jedi. Anakin constantly wrestles with the fact that despite him being the chosen one, he can never have what he truly wants. It's like being Superman but always carrying around a small piece of kryptonite in your pocket. So when he's plagued by nightmares of his mother's death and is too late to save her, Anakin blames Obi-Wan and the Jedi for holding him back. And in episode 3, when plagued by similar nightmares of Padme's death, Anakin knows he can't turn to Obi-Wan or any of the other Jedi because it's against the Jedi code to love and be married. So he's forced to confide in the only person that listens to him and seems to care about him at all, Palpatine. Unfortunately for Anakin, Palpatine only wants him for his power and potential in the Force for his own evil purposes. And thus is the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, the rise and fall of what could have been the most powerful Jedi to have ever existed. Every time I watch Revenge of the Sith, I always think about what if Anakin never turned to the dark side? How would things have been different? Maybe that can be one of my next videos. But Anakin Skywalker undoubtedly earns his spot as number 3 on this list, and just like with Palpatine, you can definitely make the argument that he could be higher and probably even number 1. Coming in at number 2, we have Mr. Hello There himself, ObiWan Kenobi. Obi-Wan is definitely the most influential character, not just in the prequels, but Star Wars as a whole. There are many qualities that make Kenobi a great character, but perhaps one of the most intriguing is that Obi-Wan is actually a pretty conflicted character. He does his best to follow the Jedi code for the most part, but has small moments of defiance, like when he insists on honoring Qui Gon Jinn's dying wish to train young Anakin. We see this conflict continue in Kenobi's relationship with his Padawan in Attack of the Clones. Obi-Wan sees his apprentice growing more powerful, but consistently doubts Skywalker. But Obi-Wan is able to overcome his doubts and forms a near unbreakable bond with Anakin, a bond like brotherhood. We see this play out in Revenge of the Sith as the duo are much more relaxed and easygoing together. But in that lies Obi-Wan's greatest failure. Obi-Wan was a brother to Anakin, but Anakin didn't need a brother. He needed a father. Qui Gon Jinn could have been that father, but his untimely death forced Obi-Wan to train the Chosen One. The fact is, Obi-Wan was not ready to take on an apprentice. As soon as he was promoted to Jedi Knight, Kenobi was given Anakin as his Padawan, a burden that he was nowhere near ready to bear. However, in his greatest fault also lies his greatest strength, determination to be the best that he could be. Despite not being ready to train Anakin, it didn't stop him from giving 110% in the effort. And that applied to every aspect of his life. Obi-Wan was never the most gifted or powerful Jedi, but that didn't stop him from training to become one of the best and most well-respected in the Order. Obi-Wan trained so hard that eventually he became the master of Form 3 lightsaber combat Surisu, which was actually the reason he was able to defeat Anakin on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. Form 3 Surisu is focused on defensive techniques rather than offensive techniques, giving Obi-Wan the advantage over his headstrong apprentice as he was able to outlast him. All of that combined with a quick-witted sense of humor makes Obi-Wan Kenobi one of the best characters in the prequels and makes him most deserving of this number 2 spot on the list. Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, the top Star Wars prequel character, Qui Gon Jinn. We are first introduced to Qui Gon in Phantom Menace, where he was portrayed by the legendary Liam Neeson. Even though Qui Gon's time was short-lived, he left a huge mark on other characters in the franchise along with fans across the globe. What makes Qui Gon special is that he is somewhat of a rogue, unconventional Jedi. At least unconventional compared to the other Jedi we see in the prequels. But Qui Gon embodies what the Jedi should be, and that's made very clear by his adamant stance on listening to and following the will of the Force rather than the will of people. Qui Gon was not as white as Obi-Wan, Yoda, or Mace Windu, but he definitely wasn't as dark as Palpatine, Maul, or Dooku. While Qui Gon never flirted with the dark side, he did understand that to properly serve the Force, a lot of times you had to operate outside the confines of the Jedi Code. This is most notably put on display when he discovers young Anakin Skywalker and insists that he take the boy on as his Padawan learner, something forbidden by the Jedi Code because Qui-Gon already had an apprentice in ObiWan Kenobi. Even after being denied his request not only to train Anakin but also being denied that Anakin be trained at all, Qui-Gon goes against the wishes of the Council and tells Anakin to watch him closely. The way Qui-Gon goes about being a Jedi helps us understand why Anakin himself would be so radical and unorthodox in his own Jedi career years later. However, Qui-Gon would ultimately meet his doom at the hands of Darth Maul on Naboo. This single event would set in motion a chain of events that would eventually lead to the rise of the Sith in the form of the Empire. But Qui-Gon knew exactly what he was fighting for, the fate of the Chosen One. Dave Filoni perfectly explained the stakes of the Duel of the Fates in a roundtable discussion. To quote Dave on the Duel of the Fates, Qui-Gon is ahead of them all, the Jedi being that, because he, Qui-Gon, knows he's the father that Anakin needs. Because Qui-Gon hasn't given up on the fact that the Jedi are supposed to actually care and love, and that's not a bad thing. Dave would go on to say that part of the beauty of Qui-Gon's character is that he sees the potential in people that often are overlooked by others. Case in point, Jar Jar Binks and Anakin Skywalker. Qui-Gon understands that all is as the Force wills it. Just like Jar Jar served a purpose, Qui-Gon knew that Anakin would serve a much more important purpose, and he understands the potential of the danger and darkness that could arise should he lose the fight against Darth Maul. The tragedy is that Qui-Gon does lose the fight anyway. I firmly believe that had Qui-Gon survived and gotten the chance to train Anakin, Anakin would have never turned to the dark side. He would have trained Anakin not only on how to control his emotions, but also teach Anakin to listen to the voice of the Force. But unfortunately, we will never see what could have been, and only can see what was. It's no question or contest in my mind that Qui-Gon Jinn is definitely the best character in the Star Wars prequels. He holds so much wisdom and understanding about the Force. It's a borderline crime that George killed him off so early, but it does make for an incredible story. Well, there you have it. Those are the top 7 prequel trilogy characters from Star Wars. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this list and tell me what you would change or who you would add or maybe remove from it. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell so you'll be notified when I drop a new video. You'll want to catch my next one as I cover the top 7 Clone Wars characters. Anyway, thanks again for supporting my channel. You all rock. I'll see you next time on Fouch Facts. Have a great day, and remember, what I told you was true from a certain point of view.